The marble floor reflected 1,000 pinpricks of light from the crystal chandeliers overhead. Dante Rowe's leather shoes clicked once, twice, then fell silent as he stopped at the center of the Aurelius Crown Hotel lobby. Around him, Chicago's elite moved like water around stone. Hedge fund managers in Tom Ford suits, a senator's chief of staff whispering into a phone, a tech founder filming a TikTok near the gold-trimmed concierge desk. Nobody looked at him. He preferred it that way. The lobby smelled like money. Not new money, old money. The kind that didn't announce itself. Leather and cedarwood. Fresh orchids shipped from Colombia every Tuesday. The faint chemical sweetness of champagne being poured somewhere behind the bar. Dante adjusted his charcoal suit jacket and walked toward the front desk. His reflection moved alongside him in the polished brass panels that lined the walls. 42 years old. 6'1", clean-shaven. No entourage. No visible jewelry except the simple steel watch his mother gave him when he sold his first software patent. The woman at the front desk smiled at a couple checking in. She wore the hotel's signature burgundy blazer with a gold name tag that read Simone. Professional. Efficient. She processed their platinum card without looking up. Before we continue this wonderful story, click subscribe, like and comment where you're watching from. I would be glad to know this story goes as far as Canada, all of the United States of America, Australia, Africa, and even the United Kingdom. So let me know where you're listening from. Now let's get to where the story began. Dante waited. Simone finished the transaction, handed over 2 key cards, and gestured toward the elevators. Then her eyes found him. The smile stayed in place, but something shifted in her posture. A micro-hesitation. She glanced past him, as if looking for someone else. "Good evening," Dante said. His voice was calm. "Steady. I need access to the executive conference suite. 3rd floor." Simone's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Do you have a reservation?" "I don't need one." Her smile thinned. "I'm sorry, sir, but that suite is reserved for." "I'm aware." Dante reached into his jacket pocket and produced a matte black keycard. It had no hotel logo, no name, just a magnetic strip and a small silver number, 001. This should work. Simone stared at the card but didn't take it. Behind her, through the doorway to the back office, a man emerged. Tall, mid-50s, silver hair combed with the precision of someone who spent 20 minutes every morning on it. His suit was Italian. His cufflinks caught the light. Preston Hale, general manager. Dante knew his file by heart. Preston's eyes swept over Dante like a scanner at airport security. Charcoal suit. Nice, but not bespoke. No tie. Shoes polished, but not custom. No briefcase. No security detail. No one waiting by the elevators. Preston stepped forward with the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Is there a problem, Simone?" She straightened. "This gentleman is requesting access to the executive suite." "I see." Preston's gaze settled on Dante. "Not hostile. Not friendly. Clinical. And you are." "Someone who needs to access the executive suite." Preston's jaw tightened just slightly. "Enough to notice if you were watching. The Aurelius Crown maintains strict security protocols. That suite is reserved for board-level executives and VIP guests. I'll need to verify your credentials." Dante extended the keycard again. "This is my credential." Preston didn't even glance at it. Instead, he made a small gesture with his left hand. Subtle. Practiced. The kind of signal that security guards recognize across crowded rooms. 2 men in black suits materialized from near the elevators. Not running. Not rushing. Just moving with purpose. One was built like a linebacker. The other had the lean, watchful look of someone who'd done private military contracting. Guests noticed. Conversations dropped to whispers. A woman in a fur stole turned to her husband. The tech founder filming near the concierge desk slowly rotated his phone camera toward the front desk. "Sir," Preston said, his voice louder now, calibrated to carry. "I'm going to need you to step aside while we verify your identity." Dante stayed exactly where he was. "Call your corporate office. I'm handling this." Then scan the keycard. Preston's expression hardened. "Simone, Call building security. And notify Chicago PD that we have a potential trespassing situation. The lobby went silent. Simone's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the phone. The two security guards flanked Dante, not touching him, but close enough that their presence became a wall. Dante's pulse didn't change. His breathing stayed even. He'd been here before, not in this exact moment, but in moments like it. Boardrooms where venture capitalists assumed he was the IT guy. Investor meetings where people asked if he was lost. Restaurants where hosts suggested he might be more comfortable at a different establishment. He looked at Preston, really looked at him. You're making a mistake. Preston's smile turned cold. The only mistake would be compromising the security of our guests. The linebacker security guard leaned in. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. A flash of light. The tech founder's phone was recording now, held high enough to capture everything. Someone else pulled out their phone. Then another. Within seconds, 4 cameras were pointed at the front desk. The senator's chief of staff paused mid-conversation. The hedge fund managers stopped pretending not to watch. Dante's voice stayed level. Quiet. I'm going to give you one chance to verify who I am before this goes somewhere you can't walk back from. Preston stepped closer, close enough that Dante could smell his cologne. Expensive. European. The kind that came in bottles with names you couldn't pronounce. Sir, Preston said, his voice dropping to something just above a whisper. I don't know who you think you are, but this is the Aurelius crown. We don't tolerate intimidation. We don't tolerate disruption. And we certainly don't tolerate people who force their way into restricted areas. The linebacker security guard's hand moved toward Dante's elbow. Dante didn't pull away. You're about to arrest the wrong person. Preston's smile widened. Simone, did you reach the police? She nodded, phone pressed to her ear. They're 2 minutes out. The tech founder's live stream notification pinged. Then again, and again, comments were already flooding in. Someone had hashtagged it. Hashtag Aurelius Crown. Hashtag security incident. Hashtag Chicago Hotel. The front doors revolved open. 2 Chicago PD officers stepped inside. They moved with the casual authority of people responding to a routine call. One was older, gray hair visible beneath his cap. The other looked fresh from the academy. Preston straightened his cufflinks and walked toward them. Officers, thank you for responding so quickly. We have a gentleman here who's attempting to access a restricted area without proper authorization. We've asked him to leave, but he's refused. The older officer looked past Preston at Dante. Sir, what's your name? Dante Rowe. And what brings you to the hotel tonight? Business. What kind of business? Preston interjected. He claims he needs access to our executive conference suite. We've asked for verification, but he's been uncooperative. The older officer studied Dante. Professional assessment. No visible weapons. No aggressive posture. Well-dressed. Calm. And black. The officer's expression didn't change, but something settled in his eyes. A decision made before all the facts were in. Mr. Rowe, do you have identification? Dante reached slowly into his jacket. The younger officer's hand drifted toward his belt. Dante produced a driver's license and handed it over. The older officer examined it, then passed it to his partner. And you're here for what purpose? I told you. Business. What kind of business requires access to a restricted conference suite? The kind I'm conducting. Preston's voice cut in. Officers, this man has been evasive since the moment he arrived. Our security protocols exist for a reason. I have a responsibility to our guests. Sir, the older officer said to Dante, I'm going to need you to place your hands behind your back. The lobby exhaled. Sharp. Shocked. The tech founder's phone camera zoomed in. Dante looked at the officer, then at Preston, then at the growing crowd of guests who'd formed a semicircle around the front desk. Watching. Recording. Silent. He didn't resist. His hands moved behind his back. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed across marble and crystal and money. A woman near the elevators gasped. The senator's chief of staff pulled out his phone. The first old woman whispered something urgent to her husband. Preston's expression remained carefully neutral. But there was something else underneath. Satisfaction. Vindication. The quiet triumph of someone who'd made a decision and watched it proven correct. The older officer guided Dante toward the front doors. The younger one followed, one hand resting on his radio. Wait. Everyone turned. Dante's voice hadn't risen, hadn't changed pitch, but it carried. You might want to confirm who you're arresting. The older officer paused. We'll sort that out at the station. No, Dante said. You'll sort it out in about 10 minutes. And when you do, you're going to wish you'd made a phone call first. Preston stepped forward. Officers, please. Our guests are being disturbed. But Dante wasn't looking at Preston anymore. He was looking directly into the tech founder's camera phone, into all the camera phones, into the live stream that was being watched by 300 people, then 800, then 2,000. The numbers ticked upward in real time. And somewhere in a corporate office 17 floors above them, someone's phone began to ring. What would you do if you were arrested at your own property? Drop a comment below. The younger officer's hand pressed against Dante's shoulder. Not rough, not gentle, procedural. The kind of touch designed to guide someone toward the door without giving them grounds to complain later. Dante didn't pull away. His shoes clicked against the marble as they walked. Behind him, Preston's voice carried across the lobby. Thank you, officers. We appreciate your swift response. The tech founder's live stream viewer count hit 5,000. The older officer spoke into his radio. Dispatch, we're code 4 at the Aurelius Crown. One adult male in custody. Nonviolent. We're transporting now. Static crackled back. Copy that. What's the charge? The officer glanced at Preston. Preston stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough that the cameras wouldn't catch it clearly. Criminal trespass. Attempted unauthorized access to restricted property. Dante's expression didn't change. He'd stopped talking. That was deliberate. Every word he said now would be used later. Every reaction recorded. Every facial expression analyzed by strangers who'd never met him but would form opinions anyway. The revolving door pushed cold February air into the lobby. Outside, a squad car sat at the curb, lights off. The older officer opened the back door. The younger one placed his hand on Dante's head, guiding him down into the seat. The door closed with a solid thunk. Through the window, Dante could see the lobby. Preston standing with his arms crossed. Simone behind the desk, phone still in her hand. The security guards returning to their posts. Guests resuming conversations, voices animated now, energized by proximity to drama. The tech founder was still recording. Inside the squad car, the older officer slid into the driver's seat. His partner took passenger side. Neither spoke immediately. The radio chattered. Domestic disturbance on West Madison. Traffic accident near Millennium Park. Someone asking about available units for a wellness check. The older officer adjusted his rearview mirror. His eyes found Dante's in the reflection. You want to tell me what that was really about? Dante met his gaze. I told you. Business. What kind of business gets you arrested? The kind that happens when people don't do their jobs. The younger officer turned in his seat. You got ID that says you're supposed to be there? I gave you my driver's license. I mean authorization. Security clearance. An invitation. Anything. Dante leaned back against the seat. The handcuffs bit into his wrists. I had a keycard. They didn't scan it. Why not? You'd have to ask them. The older officer started the engine. Look, I don't know what happened in there. But if you've got proof you're supposed to be at that hotel, now's the time to produce it. I tried. They called you instead. The squad car pulled away from the curb. Through the window, the Aurelius Crown Hotel receded. Its golden lights. Its marble facade. Its carefully curated image of wealth and exclusivity. The tech founder's live stream was being shared now. Reposted. Commented on. Someone had already uploaded it to Twitter. Then Instagram. Then TikTok. Black man arrested at luxury hotel. CEO or criminal. Watch what happened at Chicago's Aurelius Crown. This is why we can't have nice things. The comments section erupted. Half the people defended Dante. The other half said he should have just complied. A third group said it was staged. A fourth group said it was justified. Nobody knew who he was yet. but they were about to. At 6:52 p.m., a notification pinged on a phone in a corner office on Michigan Avenue. The screen lit up. A text message. No name. Just a number she recognized. Turn on the news. Now. Shanice Caldwell set down her espresso. She was Roe Capital's chief operating officer. 47 years old. MBA from Wharton. 23 years in private equity. She'd built her career on anticipating problems before they became crises. This was already a crisis. She grabbed her laptop and opened the live stream link someone had forwarded to the company's emergency channel. The feed was shaky. Phone camera quality. But clear enough. She watched Preston Hale call the police. Watched security flank Dante. Watched the handcuffs click into place. Her jaw clenched. She dialed a number. It rang once. Legal. Marcus speaking. We have a situation. Shanice's voice was ice. Pull up the live stream from the Aurelius Crown. Now. On it. She switched to a three-way call. Added the third number. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. This better be important. The voice belonged to Jerome Baptiste, Roe Capital's general counsel. 61 years old. Former federal prosecutor. He'd argued cases before the 7th Circuit. He didn't panic easily. He was about to. Dante just got arrested, Shanice said. Silence. Then, arrested for what? Trespassing. At his own hotel. More silence. Longer this time. Tell me you're joking. Check the live stream. She heard keyboard clicks. Then a sharp inhale. Is that Preston Hale? Jerome's voice had shifted. Colder now. Prosecutor mode. Yes. Does he know who Dante is? Apparently not. Marcus's voice cut in. I'm pulling security footage from the hotel's internal system. Give me 30 seconds. More keyboard clicks. Okay, I've got it. Preston never scanned the keycard. He signaled security before verification. And, hold on. He explicitly told the officers Dante was trespassing. Shanice pulled up her contacts. Scrolled to a name she'd hoped she wouldn't need tonight. I'm calling the mayor's office. Wait. Jerome's voice sharpened. We document everything first. Marcus, send me the full security feed. Timestamp it. I want audio if you can get it. Shanice, pull Dante's ownership records. We're going to need them in the next 5 minutes. At 6:54 p.m., the board of Roe Capital received an emergency notification. 6 board members, scattered across 3 time zones. All of them powerful, all of them connected, and all of them suddenly very interested in a hotel lobby in downtown Chicago. At 6:56 p.m., ownership documents landed in the inbox of Chicago PD's Internal Affairs Division. Attached to them was a note from Roe Capital's legal team. Professional, precise, and carrying the weight of someone who knew exactly how much trouble was about to rain down. At 6:58 p.m., the mayor's chief of staff picked up her phone. She'd been in a meeting about the city's budget shortfall. She stepped out into the hallway, pressed the phone to her ear, and listened. Her face went pale. How long ago? 6 minutes. Which officers? Units 2847 and 2851. She hung up, dialed a different number. This one went straight to the desk of Chicago PD's Deputy Chief of Operations. We have a problem. At 7 p.m. exactly, the older officer's radio crackled. Different voice this time. Higher rank. The kind of voice that didn't make requests. It gave orders. Unit 2847, what's your 20? The older officer grabbed the radio. Southbound on Michigan. En route to central booking. Stop the vehicle. The officer's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Then to his partner. Say again. Pull over. Now. The squad car slowed. Pulled to the curb. Cars rushed past. The city moved around them like they were a stone in a river. The officer's hand tightened on the radio. What's this about? Is your passenger a Mr. Dante Roe? A pause. The older officer looked back at Dante through the metal grate. Affirmative. Release him immediately. The younger officer's head snapped around. What? Did I stutter? The voice on the radio had gone from authoritative to dangerous. Uncuff him. Apologize. And return him to the Aurelius Crown. The older officer's face had gone blank. Professional mask. But underneath, something was cracking. Sir, we were told this was a trespassing. You were told wrong. That man owns the building you just removed him from. The silence inside the squad car was absolute. The younger officer turned fully around now, staring at Dante through the grate. Dante stared back, expressionless. Are you? The older officer's voice faltered. Are you Mr. Rowe? As in Rowe Capital. Dante's voice was quiet, controlled. Yes. The younger officer swore under his breath. The older officer closed his eyes. Just for a second. When he opened them, he reached for the door handle. They uncuffed him on the side of Michigan Avenue. Cars slowed as they passed. People filmed from their phones. Someone honked. The older officer's hands shook slightly as he pocketed the handcuffs. Mr. Rowe, we apologize. There was a miscommunication. Dante rubbed his wrists. Red marks where the metal had pressed. Miscommunication. We were acting on information provided by hotel management, who didn't verify my identity. The officer had no answer for that. The younger officer looked like he wanted to disappear into the pavement. Sir, can we give you a ride back? Dante looked at the squad car. At the back seat where he'd been sitting 2 minutes ago. At the cage that separated passengers from officers. No. He pulled out his phone. Dialed. It rang once before Shanice answered. Where are you? Michigan and Randolph. Send a car. 5 minutes. He hung up. The officers stood there, uncertain. The radio crackled again. Different voice this time. Someone asking for a status update. The older officer responded. Subject released. No charges filed. More static. Then, return to the hotel. There's been a complaint filed against the general manager. The officers exchanged a look. Dante's phone buzzed. A text from Shanice. Car arriving in 3 minutes. Preston doesn't know yet. He pocketed the phone and looked at the officers. You should probably head back. The older officer nodded. Started to say something. Stopped. Started again. For what it's worth, sir, I'm sorry. Dante studied him, trying to decide if the apology was genuine or procedural, trying to decide if it mattered. Yeah, he said finally. Me too. A black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. Tinted windows. No company logo. The back door opened from the inside. Dante climbed in without looking back. The door closed. The Mercedes pulled into traffic and disappeared. Behind it, the 2 officers stood on the sidewalk, watching it go. The older one pulled out his phone, started typing a report that was going to be very difficult to explain. And back at the Aurelius Crown Hotel, Preston Hale was telling a guest that everything had been handled professionally and that there was nothing to worry about. He had no idea what was coming. His phone started ringing at 7:02 p.m. He didn't answer it. That was his second mistake. Should the officers have verified Dante's identity before arresting him? Comment your thoughts. The live stream had gone viral. 23,000 views in 8 minutes. Then 40,000. Then 90. The algorithm didn't care about context. It cared about engagement. And nothing drove engagement like conflict. Black entrepreneur arrested at 5-star hotel. Full video. The tech founder who'd filmed it wasn't just recording anymore. He was narrating. Guys, this is insane. They just arrested this man in a $3,000 suit for trying to access a conference room. No investigation. No verification. Just straight to handcuffs. Comments flooded the screen faster than anyone could read them. This is America. Maybe he was trespassing? Why won't he just show ID? He did show ID. They didn't care. Another day, another black man criminalized for existing. You don't know the full story. Stop race baiting. The full story is right there on video. The split was immediate. Predictable. People chose sides before knowing anything beyond a 40-second clip. Some saw injustice. Others saw justified security measures. A third group saw content. Shareable. Reactable. Profitable. Within 12 minutes, 3 different news aggregators had picked it up. Local Chicago blogs. Then regional outlets. Someone tagged CNN's iReport. Someone else sent it to NBC Chicago. A Twitter account with 2 million followers quote-tweeted it with one word. Unacceptable. That account belonged to Amara Okafor, civil rights attorney, frequent cable news guest. She'd built her platform on cases exactly like this. Or at least, cases that looked like this. She didn't know who Dante was yet. Neither did her followers. But they knew what they were seeing. Or thought they did. The thread exploded. 17,000 retweets in 6 minutes. Armchair lawyers dissected the arrest. Social justice advocates called for boycotts. Counter-protesters said everyone was overreacting. And through it all, the viewer count kept climbing. Inside the Aurelius Crown, Preston Hale stood in his office on the second floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the lobby below. From up here, everything looked calm. Ordered. Exactly as it should be. His phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at it. Unknown number. He swiped it away. It buzzed again. Different number. Then again. He frowned and checked his email. 47 new messages in the last 10 minutes. He opened the first one. Subject, Incident at Aurelius Crown. Mr. Hale, I'm a journalist with the Chicago Tribune. I'm hoping to get a comment on the arrest that occurred in your lobby this evening. Can you confirm the identity of the individual who was detained? Preston's frown deepened. He deleted it. Opened another. Subject, Tonight's arrest. Hi Preston, it's Garrett from Channel 7. We're running a story on the incident at your hotel. Would love to get your side. Call me. He set the phone down. Walked to the window. Below, guests moved through the lobby. Everything normal. No police. No disruption. Just another Thursday evening at a luxury hotel. His desk phone rang. He picked it up. Preston Hale. Mr. Hale, this is Diana Cortez from the corporate communications team. The voice was clipped. Professional. And something else. Stressed. Yes. We need to talk about the incident in your lobby. It's been handled. The individual was removed by Chicago PD. No guests were harmed. Property is secure. A pause on the other end. Mr. Hale, do you know who that individual was? A trespasser attempting to access restricted areas. Another pause. Longer this time. Sir, that was Dante Rowe. Preston blinked. The name sounded familiar. Vaguely. Like something he should know but couldn't quite place. I'm sorry, who? The pause stretched into something uncomfortable. Dante Rowe. As in Rowe Capital. As in the majority shareholder of Aurelius Crown Properties. The office tilted. Not physically. But Preston felt it anyway. A sensation like missing the last step on a staircase. His hand found the edge of his desk. That's not. I would have been notified if. You were supposed to receive an email 3 days ago. It went to your corporate inbox. Did you check it? Preston's eyes flicked to his computer. He had 400 unread emails. Most marked low priority by filters he'd set up years ago. I'll need to verify that. Don't bother. I'm looking at it right now. Subject line. Unannounced executive audit. February 13th. Diana's voice had lost its professional veneer. Now it was just sharp. You just had the owner of your hotel arrested for trespassing. At his own property. On camera. And it's currently trending on Twitter. Preston's legs felt weak. He sat down. There must be some mistake. The only mistake was yours. We have reporters calling every line. Legal is fielding questions from Chicago PD's internal affairs. And our stock price just dropped 2%. I was protecting the property. You were supposed to verify credentials. That's literally in your training manual. Page 47. Preston's mind raced. The man hadn't looked like an executive. No entourage. No advance team. No notification. Just a stranger with a key card asking for access. How was he supposed to know? What do you need me to do? He asked. Nothing. Don't talk to anyone. Don't make statements. Don't leave your office. Someone from legal will be there within the hour. Diana exhaled audibly. And Preston? Start updating your resume. The line went dead. Preston sat in the silence of his office. Outside, the city sparkled. Inside, his career was ending in real time. He pulled up Twitter on his phone. Hashtag Aurelius Crown was trending. Number 7 in the United States. Number 3 in Chicago. He clicked on it. The video played. From an angle he hadn't seen. Someone else's phone. This one showed his face clearly. Showed him talking to the officers. Showed the moment he said criminal trespass. Showed him smirking when the handcuffs clicked. The comments beneath were vicious. This is what systemic racism looks like. Fire that manager immediately. How did he not know who owned the hotel? Because he assumed a black man couldn't. I hope they sue this place into the ground. Preston's hands trembled. He set the phone down, closed his eyes, tried to think. There had to be a way to fix this. An explanation. A context that made it make sense. But even as he thought it, he knew. There was no context that would save him. At 7:04 p.m., Amara Okafor's team was already drafting a statement. They'd done this before. High-profile incident. Viral video. Public outcry. The playbook was clear. Identify the victim. Amplify the injustice. Demand accountability. By 7:06 p.m., she'd confirmed Dante's identity through 3 separate sources. One of them was a former client who'd invested with Row Capital. Another was a journalist who tried and failed to interview Dante for a Forbes profile. The third was someone in the mayor's office who spoke on condition of anonymity. She drafted a statement. Tonight, Dante Rowe, billionaire CEO and philanthropist, was arrested at a hotel he owns. Not because he committed a crime, but because a manager couldn't imagine that a black man belonged in a space like that. This is what bias looks like when it wears a suit and tie. She posted it at 7:08 p.m. It was retweeted 19,000 times in 4 minutes. News outlets started picking it up. Not as speculation anymore. As fact. Names attached. Details confirmed. ABC 7 Chicago ran a breaking news alert. Billionaire CEO arrested at own hotel. Full story at 10. NBC sent a crew to the Aurelius Crown. CBS started making calls to Row Capital's press office. And in living rooms across Chicago, across Illinois, across the country, people watched their phones light up with notifications. Some were outraged. Some were skeptical. Some were filming their own reaction videos. But everyone was talking about it. Preston's phone rang again. He looked at the caller ID. It was the hotel's head of security. He answered. Yes. Mr. Hale, we have news crews outside. How many? 3 so far. They're asking about the arrest. Preston rubbed his face. Don't let them inside. No statements. They're not trying to come inside. They're filming the building and interviewing guests. What guests? The ones who were in the lobby. The ones who saw it happen. Preston walked back to the window. Looked down. Sure enough, camera crews had set up on the sidewalk. Bright lights. Microphones. Reporters doing stand-ups with the hotel entrance in the background. A guest walked out and was immediately surrounded. Preston couldn't hear what they were saying, but he could imagine. At 7:11 p.m., Shanice Caldwell was on a conference call with 9 different people. Legal, PR, board members. The head of Row Capital's Chicago operations. Everyone was talking at once. Need a statement ready. Internal investigation. Liability exposure. This is going to cost millions. Shanice's voice cut through. Everyone stop. Silence. Here's what's happening. Legal is handling Chicago PD. PR is drafting a statement. HR is reviewing Preston Hale's employment file. And I'm about to pick up Dante from Michigan Avenue. When I have more information, you'll have more information. Until then, nobody talks to press. Nobody makes statements. Nobody does anything without clearing it through me first. Understood. A chorus of affirmatives. She ended the call, grabbed her coat. Her assistant was already waiting with the car keys. At 7:13 p.m., the Mercedes carrying Dante pulled up to a private entrance on the east side of the Aurelius Crown. No cameras here. No reporters. Just a service door used by vendors and executives who didn't want to use the lobby. Shanice was waiting. Dante stepped out of the car. His wrists still bore faint red marks. His expression was unreadable. Shanice didn't ask if he was okay. She knew him well enough to know he'd say yes regardless. Legal's handling the officers, she said. PR's ready to release a statement. And Preston is currently locked in his office pretending this isn't happening. Dante looked up at the building. His building. 23 floors. 200 rooms. A rooftop bar that served cocktails named after dead poets. How bad is the video, he asked. Viral. National news by morning. Possibly international. He nodded slowly. Good. Shanice's eyebrows rose. Good. People need to see it. Dante, this is a PR nightmare. No. He turned to look at her. This is exactly what I wanted to find. And for the first time since the handcuffs had clicked, something almost like a smile crossed his face. Do you think Dante planned this? Drop your theories below. At 6:52 p.m., Marcus Chun had been reviewing quarterly tax filings in his corner office. Senior legal counsel for Rowe Capital. Stanford Law. 12 years with the firm. He'd handled mergers, acquisitions, regulatory compliance, and 3 separate SEC investigations. He'd never handled this. His computer screen showed 4 different windows. Top left, the live stream, still broadcasting, viewer count now at 140,000. Top right, internal security footage from the Aurelius Crown, high definition, multiple angles. Bottom left, a running document of timestamps and actions. Bottom right, Illinois Criminal Code, already pulled up to section 21-3, criminal trespass to real property. His phone buzzed. Text from Shanice, start building the case. We need ammunition. Marcus's fingers moved across the keyboard. He'd learned a long time ago that in situations like this, emotion was a liability. Facts were weapons. 6:42 p.m., subject enters hotel lobby. 6:43 p.m., subject approaches front desk. 6:44 p.m., subject presents keycard to desk agent. 6:45 p.m., General Manager Preston Hale emerges from back office. 6:46 p.m., Hale signals security without scanning keycard. 6:47 p.m., Hale instructs desk agent to contact police. 6:49 p.m., Chicago PD units arrive on scene. Every action, every decision, every failure to follow protocol. He pulled up the Aurelius Crown's employee handbook, scrolled to the section on guest verification procedures, highlighted the relevant passages. All staff members must verify guest credentials through the hotel's digital authentication system before denying access to any area of the property. Preston hadn't done that. In cases of disputed access, managers are required to contact the corporate security line before involving law enforcement. Preston hadn't done that either. Marcus switched windows, opened the email server, searched for Preston Hale's inbox. The audit notification had been sent 3 days ago at 2:17 p.m. Subject line clear. Instructions explicit. Dante would be conducting an unannounced property inspection on February 13th between 6 o'clock and 8 p.m. The email had been opened once for 7 seconds, then marked as read and archived. Marcus saved the metadata. Timestamps. IP address. Device information. At 6:54 p.m., he compiled everything into a single PDF. 47 pages. Timestamped security footage screenshots. Email records. Hotel policy excerpts. Illinois trespass law. A preliminary analysis of civil liability. He attached a cover memo. Asterisk to Jerome Baptiste, General Counsel from Marcus Chun, Senior Legal Counsel Re. Aurelius Crown Incident. Preliminary legal assessment date. February 13th, 2026, 6:54 p.m. Summary. Hotel management violated multiple corporate policies, potentially exposed the company to civil rights litigation, and caused reputational damage currently estimated in the 7-figure range. Recommend immediate termination of GM Preston Hale and comprehensive review of all management staff. Full legal analysis attached. Asterisk. He hit send. At 6:56 p.m., Jerome Baptiste was reading it in his home office in Evanston. He'd been there for 30 seconds when his wife knocked on the door. Is everything okay? You look. I need to make some calls. She knew that tone. She left quietly, closing the door behind her. Jerome picked up his phone, dialed a number he had on speed dial but rarely used. It rang 4 times. Deputy Chief Morrison. Alan, it's Jerome Baptiste. We have a situation that's about to land on your desk, and I wanted to give you a heads up before it becomes a clusterfuck. A pause. I'm listening. 2 of your officers just arrested Dante Rowe. Who's Dante Rowe? CEO of Rowe Capital. Net worth $3.8 billion. He was arrested for trespassing at a hotel he owns. Silence on the other end. Then, you're joking. I'm sending you the video right now. It's already gone viral. 50,000 views and climbing. Jerome heard keyboard clicks. Then a long exhale. Jesus Christ. Your officers were acting on information from hotel management. They didn't verify, didn't investigate, just cuffed him and walked him out. Where is he now? In a squad car somewhere on Michigan Avenue. But Alan, that's not the worst part. It gets worse. The arrest was filmed. Multiple angles. It's on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. News outlets are already calling. And Dante didn't resist. Didn't argue. Just let it happen. Another pause. You're saying he wanted to be arrested. I'm saying he knew what would happen if he was. Jerome heard Morrison swear under his breath. Then, I'll handle it. What do you need from us? Release him. Apologize. And prepare for whatever comes next. What comes next? Lawsuits. Federal investigation. DOJ looking into civil rights violations. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But whatever happens, it started in your city with your officers, and it's going to be on the news in about 20 minutes. I'll make the call. Jerome hung up, pulled up the live stream on his computer. The viewer count had hit 80,000. Someone had started a hashtag. Someone else had created a Reddit thread. The conversation was already spiraling in 6 different directions. He made another call. Mayor's office. This is Jerome Baptiste, General Counsel for Row Capital. I need to speak with Chief of Staff Hendricks. It's urgent. She's in a meeting. Pull her out. Now. At 6:58 p.m., Catherine Hendricks was standing in a hallway outside a conference room, phone pressed to her ear. 56 years old. 20 years in Chicago politics. She'd handled scandals, corruption investigations, and a bribery case that nearly toppled the previous administration. This was different. How long ago did this happen? She asked. 16 minutes. And it's already viral? 100,000 views. Multiple news outlets confirming. This is going to be the lead story on every channel by 10 o'clock. Catherine's mind raced through the implications. The optics. The politics. The mayor was already underwater in polling. Budget crisis. Rising crime. Labor disputes with the teachers' union. The last thing they needed was a viral video of a black billionaire being arrested by Chicago cops. Where is he now? Squad car. Being transported. Stop the transport. Release him. Immediately. I'm not CPD. I'll handle it. But I need you to tell me something. Is he going to sue? A pause. I don't know yet. Find out. Because if he is, we need to get ahead of this now. If he's not, we need to coordinate messaging. She hung up. Dialed Chicago PD's deputy chief directly. Didn't bother with pleasantries. Alan, we have a problem. At 7 p.m., Deputy Chief Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. The older officer in Unit 2847 had been a cop for 19 years. He'd made thousands of arrests. Domestic violence, drug possession, assault, armed robbery. He'd never been ordered to release someone mid-transport. Say again, he said into the radio. Release him. Immediately. Sir, we have him in custody. We're transporting to central booking. I don't care. Uncuff him. Apologize. And take him back to the hotel. The younger officer turned in his seat. What the hell is going on? The older officer ignored him. Sir, can you confirm this is about the trespass arrest at the Aurelius Crown? Confirmed. And you need to understand something. That man you arrested? He owns the hotel. He's a billionaire. And you just handcuffed him on camera in front of 100,000 people. The younger officer's face went pale. Are we being sued? The older officer asked. I don't know yet. But you need to release him now before this gets worse. The squad car pulled over. Michigan Avenue. Traffic rushing past. The Chicago skyline glittering in the distance. The officers sat in silence for 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then the older officer opened his door. At 7:02 p.m., Preston Hale's phone rang for the 7th time. He'd ignored the first 6. This one showed a name he recognized. Corporate headquarters. He answered. Preston Hale. Mr. Hale, this is Richard Bellamy. Senior VP of Operations. Preston's boss's boss. We need to talk about what happened tonight. Sir, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But right now, I need you to listen very carefully. Do not speak to press. Do not make statements. Do not leave your office. Legal is on their way. HR will be there within the hour. And you are suspended effective immediately pending investigation. Suspended? Sir, I was following protocol. You arrested the owner of your hotel for trespassing. On camera. And it's currently the #1 trending topic on Twitter. So no, you were not following protocol. You were creating a liability that's going to cost this company millions. The line went dead. Preston stared at his phone, then at his computer screen. The video was everywhere now. His face, his voice, his decision, his mistake. At 7:04 p.m., the black Mercedes carrying Dante pulled away from Michigan Avenue. He sat in the back seat, rubbing his wrists. The red marks were already fading. Shanice was next to him, laptop open, reading through legal's preliminary report. They're recommending termination, she said. Preston, the security supervisor. Possibly the desk agent. No. She looked up. No, not the desk agent. She was following orders. And not the security supervisor. They responded to a manager's signal. Just Preston then. Dante nodded. And I want a full audit of his employment history. Every decision he's made. Every complaint filed. Every incident report. If this is a pattern, I want documentation. Shanice made a note. Legal's already on it. What about the officers? Internal investigation. But CPD is handling that separately. Dante looked out the window. The city moved past. Lights. People. Lives unfolding in real time while his was being dissected on social media. How many views? He asked. 160,000. And climbing. He nodded slowly. Good. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Dante, this is going to follow you. Every profile. Every article. Every time someone searches your name. This is what they'll find. He turned to look at her. I know. Then why? Because this isn't about me. The car turned onto a side street. Pulled up to the private entrance. Shanice could see news crews camped out front. Lights. Cameras. Reporters doing stand-ups. What's it about then? She asked. Dante opened the door. Stepped out into the cold February air. Change, he said. And he walked into his building through a door most guests never knew existed. What change do you think Dante is trying to create? Comment below. The private elevator moved in silence. Polished brass. Recessed lighting. A small panel with only 4 buttons. Lobby, executive offices, penthouse, basement. Dante pressed penthouse. The elevator hummed upward. Shanice stood next to him, phone in hand, watching notifications multiply. Legal wants to know if you're pressing charges. Against who? Preston. The hotel. CPD. Dante's reflection stared back from the brass doors. Not yet. Not yet or not at all. Let them sweat. The elevator chimed. Doors opened onto a private hallway. Marble floors. Abstract art on the walls. A single door at the end marked only with a number, 2301. Dante's penthouse office. He designed it himself. Minimalist. Functional. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. A desk made from reclaimed wood. Bookshelves lined with volumes on architecture, urban planning, economic theory. No photos. No awards. No ego wall. He walked to the windows and looked down. 23 floors below, news crews had multiplied. 5 cameras now. Maybe 6. Guests were being interviewed on their way out. Someone had set up a protest sign. Another person was filming a TikTok. His phone buzzed. Text from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Rowe, this is Amara Okafor, civil rights attorney. I'd like to discuss representation for a potential civil rights lawsuit. Please call me at your earliest convenience. He deleted it. Another text. Different number. Dante, it's Marcus from Legal. Chicago Tribune, NBC, CBS, and ABC have all requested interviews. How do you want me to handle? He typed back. No interviews. Statement only. Draft something and send it to me. Shanice set her laptop on the conference table. We need to talk about next steps. I know what the next steps are. Then tell me. Because from where I'm sitting, we have a viral incident, potential litigation, media circus, and a general manager who's probably calling his lawyer right now. Dante turned from the window. Preston violated policy. He racially profiled a guest. Owner. And he called police instead of verifying credentials. That's grounds for termination. Legal agrees. HR agrees. But if we fire him tonight, his lawyer will argue it's retaliatory. They'll claim we're trying to silence him before he can present his side. His side is on video. Doesn't matter. They'll spin it. And we'll be fighting wrongful termination lawsuits on top of everything else. Dante sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, pulled up the security footage, watched it again from the beginning. Preston's face when he first saw Dante. The micro-expression, the instant judgment, the signal to security before any verification. Dante had seen that look before, hundreds of times. In boardrooms, in restaurants, in hotel lobbies. The look that said, "You don't belong here. We're not firing him tonight." Dante said finally, "We're suspending him pending investigation. Full pay, full benefits, by the book. And then we document everything. His employment history, performance reviews, complaint records. We build a case that shows this wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern." Shanice nodded. "I'll have HR pull his file. Pull everyone's file. Every manager. Every supervisor. If this is happening at the Aurelius Crown, it's happening at other properties. You want a full audit? I want a full overhaul." His phone rang. Jerome Baptiste. Dante answered. "Talk to me." CPD released a statement. Quote, "Officers responded to a call regarding a potential trespass at the Aurelius Crown Hotel. Upon further investigation, it was determined that the individual in question had lawful access to the property. The individual was released without charges. CPD is reviewing the incident to ensure all protocols were followed." Unquote. That's it. That's it. No apology. No acknowledgement of error. Just standard CYA language. Dante's jaw tightened. What about internal investigation? Ongoing. But don't hold your breath. They'll find that the officers acted in good faith based on information provided by hotel management. They'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe desk duty for a week. Then back on the street. And Preston, he's suspended. But his union rep is already making noise about due process. Dante stood, walked back to the window, pressed his palm against the glass. Cold. Solid. Real. "Send me everything," he said. "Security footage. Email records. Employee files. Police reports. Everything. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." He hung up. The city stretched out below him. Millions of people. Millions of stories. Most of them never made the news. Never went viral. Never got justice. His phone buzzed again. This time a call. Unknown number. He almost declined. Then changed his mind. "Dante Rowe." "Mr. Rowe, this is Officer Chun. We spoke earlier. I just wanted to call personally and apologize for what happened tonight." Dante recognized the voice. The older officer. The one who'd put the handcuffs on. "You already apologized." "I know. But I wanted you to hear it again. What we did was wrong. We should have verified. We should have investigated. And I'm sorry." Silence on the line. "You think an apology fixes this?" Dante asked. "No, sir. I don't. But I wanted you to know that I understand what happened. And why it happened. And that I'm going to do better." "Are you calling me because your supervisor told you to?" A pause. "No, sir. I'm calling because I have a son. He's 16. And if this had happened to him, I'd want the officers involved to at least acknowledge what they did wrong." Dante closed his eyes, thought about his own mother, working night shifts, coming home exhausted, warning him to always be polite, always comply, always make it home safe. "Thank you for calling," he said finally, and hung up. Shanice was watching him. "You okay?" "No." "What do you need?" He sat back down, pulled up a document on his laptop. Started typing. "I need you to schedule a press conference. Tomorrow. Noon. What are you going to say?" "The truth." "Which truth?" "All of it." She made a note. "Legal's going to hate this. Legal can deal with it. PR's going to hate it too." Then they shouldn't have taken the job. His phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Statement draft attached. Review when you can. Dante opened the attachment. Read through it. Standard corporate language. Regret. Investigation. Commitment to excellence. All the words. None of the meaning. He deleted it. Started writing his own. On February 13th, 2026, I was arrested at the Aurelius Crown Hotel, a property I own, by officers responding to a call from hotel management who assumed I didn't belong. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a failure of protocol, of training, of the systems we build that allow bias to masquerade as procedure. I'm not pressing charges. I'm not suing. I'm not looking for revenge. I'm looking for change. Starting tomorrow, Row Capital will implement mandatory bias training across all properties. We will review every complaint filed in the past 5 years. We will create anonymous reporting systems for staff who experience or witness discrimination. And we will hold ourselves accountable. Because this isn't about me. It's about everyone who's ever been told they don't belong in a place they have every right to be. He sent it to Shanice. Release this in an hour. She read it. Looked up. You're sure? Yes. This is going to make you the story. I'm already the story. Not like this. This makes you the face of something bigger. You'll be asked to comment on every incident, every case, every viral video. You'll never just be a CEO again. Dante leaned back in his chair. Looked at her. Really looked at her. Good, he said. Downstairs, Preston Hale sat in his office with the lights off. His computer screen glowed in the darkness. The video played on loop. His face, his voice, his career ending in real time. His phone had stopped ringing. That was almost worse. He'd called his wife. Told her he'd be late. Didn't tell her why. He'd call his lawyer in the morning. Start damage control. Maybe issue his own statement. But deep down he knew. There was no controlling this. The door to his office opened. A woman stood in the hallway. Security badge. HR identification. 2 more people behind her. Mr. Hale, we need you to come with us. He stood slowly. Am I being fired? You're being escorted from the property. Your access has been revoked pending investigation. I want to speak to my union rep. You can call them from home. They walked him through the service corridors. Away from guests. Away from cameras. Out a side door into the parking garage. His car was still there. Black Audi. Personalized plate. Aurelius. He'd have to return that too. He drove home in silence. No radio. No podcast. Just the sound of his own breathing and the knowledge that everything he'd built over 20 years had collapsed in 16 minutes. And somewhere above him, in a penthouse office, Dante Rowe was writing the statement that would define what happened next. Should Dante press charges or focus on systemic change? What would you do? Preston's voice cracked. This was a misunderstanding. Dante stood across the desk, hands clasped behind his back. The office door was closed. No witnesses. No cameras. Just the 2 of them and the truth hanging in the air like smoke. A misunderstanding. Dante repeated the words slowly, testing their weight, finding them insufficient. Is that what you call it when you don't verify credentials? Preston's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. His knuckles had gone white. I was protecting the property. From who? From someone who he stopped. Realized where the sentence was going. Tried to redirect. From someone who didn't provide proper identification. I gave you a key card. You refused to provide additional verification. I shouldn't have needed to. The silence stretched. Preston looked down at his desk. At the nameplate that read Preston Hale, General Manager. At the awards he'd received for customer service excellence. At the photo of him shaking hands with the previous owner during the acquisition ceremony. He'd never met Dante that day. The sale had been handled remotely. How was I supposed to know who you were? Preston asked finally. Dante's expression didn't change. You weren't supposed to assume I was a threat. I didn't. You signaled security within 90 seconds. Before scanning my keycard. Before asking my name. Before checking any system. Dante pulled out his phone. Scrolled. Turned it around. This is the email sent to you 3 days ago. Subject line, unannounced executive audit. It clearly states I would be visiting between 6 and 8 p.m. tonight. Preston stared at the screen. His stomach dropped. I get hundreds of emails a day. This one was marked urgent. It was sent from corporate headquarters. It included my photo. I must have missed it. You opened it. For 7 seconds. Then archived it. Preston's face went pale. How do you? Because I own the email server. Dante pocketed his phone. I also own this building. The furniture you're sitting on. The computer you're using. The paycheck you deposit every 2 weeks. All of it. And you had me arrested for trespassing. I was doing my job. Your job is to verify before you escalate. Your job is to follow protocol. Your job is to treat everyone who walks through those doors with the same respect, regardless of how they look or who you think they are. Dante leaned forward slightly. You failed. Preston's jaw tightened. I made a judgment call. Based on what? Based on the fact that you didn't look like. He caught himself again. But this time, he'd gone too far. Didn't look like what? Dante's voice was quiet. Dangerous. Finish the sentence. Preston said nothing. Didn't look like an executive? Didn't look like someone who could afford this hotel? Didn't look like someone who belonged? Dante straightened. Say it. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Preston stood abruptly. His chair rolled backward and hit the wall. I meant that you walked in here without security. Without assistance. Without any of the usual markers that indicate VIP status. How was I supposed to know? You could have asked. I did ask. You asked for proof. After you'd already decided I was lying. Preston's breathing had gone shallow. Fast. His career was ending. He could feel it. Not in some distant future. Right now? In this room. With this man who spoke in measured tones and didn't raise his voice and somehow made that more terrifying than shouting. What do you want from me? Preston asked. The truth. I've told you the truth. No. You've told me excuses. Dante walked to the window. Looked down at the lobby below. Guests moving. Oblivious. I want you to say out loud what we both know happened. Preston's hands shook. He shoved them in his pockets. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I made a mistake. I admit that. But it wasn't. Wasn't what? Wasn't racist. Dante turned. You saw a black man in your lobby and assumed he didn't belong. You didn't check systems. Didn't verify. Didn't investigate. You just decided. And when I tried to explain, you called the police. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Dante's voice hardened. I built a $3 billion company from nothing. I own properties in 12 cities. I fund scholarships for kids who look like me because nobody funded mine. And tonight, I got handcuffed in my own hotel because you couldn't imagine that someone like me could own a place like this. Preston opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I'm sorry. For what? For what happened. Be specific. Preston's eyes glistened. Pride warring with survival. For calling the police. For not verifying. For his voice broke. For assuming. Dante studied him. Looking for sincerity. Finding only fear. This isn't about you. Dante said finally. You're a symptom. Not the disease. I don't understand. You will. Dante walked to the door. Stopped with his hand on the handle. You're suspended. Full pay. Full benefits. HR will contact you with next steps. And then what? Dante looked back. And then we'll see if you learn anything. He opened the door and walked out. Preston stood alone in his office. The awards on the wall. The nameplate on his desk. The view of the city he'd worked 20 years to earn. All of it meaningless now. His phone buzzed. Text from his wife. Are you okay? Saw the news. He didn't respond. Couldn't. Because he wasn't okay. And he didn't know if he ever would be again. Outside, Dante walked through the service corridor. No guests here. Just concrete and fluorescent lights and the mechanical hum of ventilation systems. Shanice fell into step beside him. How'd it go? He apologized. Did you accept it? No. They reached the elevator. Dante pressed the button. Waited. Legal wants to know if we're pursuing termination, Shanice said. Not yet. Why not? The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside. Because I want him to understand why, Dante said. Firing him is easy. Teaching him is harder. And if we don't teach, this just happens somewhere else with someone else. Shanice nodded. You know that's not going to satisfy people. They want blood. They'll get justice. That's better. The elevator climbed. Past the lobby. Past the executive offices. Stopped at the penthouse. The doors opened. And standing in the hallway, waiting, was someone Dante hadn't expected to see. His mother, 71 years old. Gray hair pulled back. Nurse's scrubs under a winter coat. She'd driven 2 hours from her house in Gary, Indiana, the moment she saw the news. Baby, she said. And Dante, who'd held it together through the arrest and the confrontation and the media storm, felt something crack. Has anyone you know ever faced discrimination like this? Share your story in the comments. The board conference room held 12 people and enough tension to choke on. Dante sat at the head of the table. To his left, Shanice, Jerome, and Marcus from legal. To his right, 3 board members who'd flown in overnight. Around the table, HR Director Keisha Thornton, Chief Compliance Officer Raymond Wells, and Director of Operations Malcolm Cross. The last seat belonged to someone calling in remotely. Video screen mounted on the wall. Senator Darren Mitchell, former presidential candidate, current advisor to Roe Capital's Ethical Investment Division. Let's begin, Dante said. Keisha opened a folder. Preston Hale's employment file. 22 years in hospitality. Started as a front desk agent. Promoted to shift manager, then assistant GM, then GM. Performance reviews consistently above average. No formal complaints. No formal complaints, Jerome repeated. What about informal ones? Keisha flipped pages. 3 incidents in the past 18 months. All documented in manager notes, but never escalated to HR. What incidents? Guest complaint about feeling unwelcome. Staff member reporting uncomfortable interactions. Vendor mentioning dismissive treatment. Keisha looked up. All 3 involved people of color. The room went quiet. Malcolm Cross leaned forward. Why weren't these escalated? Because they weren't framed as discrimination. They were framed as customer service issues. Communication style. Professional disagreements. Who documented them? Different managers. Different departments. None of them connected. Shanice pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop. I ran analytics across all Roe Capital properties. Complaint patterns. Termination rates. Promotion demographics. She turned the screen around. The Aurelius Crown has a 28% higher turnover rate for staff of color compared to white staff. It has the lowest diversity in management positions of any property we own. And guest complaints involving alleged discrimination are twice the company average. Raymond Wells removed his glasses. Cleaned them slowly. How did we miss this? Because nobody was looking, Dante said. We focused on revenue, occupancy rates, customer satisfaction scores. We didn't measure what we should have been measuring. Senator Mitchell's voice came through the speakers. What are the legal implications? Jerome answered. If we can prove a pattern of discriminatory behavior, we're looking at potential EEOC violations. Civil rights lawsuits from former employees. Regulatory scrutiny. Department of Justice investigation. And if we can't prove a pattern, we're still looking at reputational damage that could cost us tens of millions in lost business. One of the board members, a woman named Dr. Helen Park, spoke up. I vote we terminate Preston immediately and issue a public apology. That won't fix the system, Dante said. It'll fix the optics. I don't care about optics. I care about outcomes. Dr. Park's expression hardened. Dante, I understand you're personally involved in this. But the board has a fiduciary responsibility. The board has a moral responsibility, Dante interrupted. And if we're only acting because I got arrested, then we're missing the point. Then what's the point? The point is that this happened. To me. On camera. And it's going to keep happening to people who don't own hotels. Who don't have lawyers. Who don't have the power to fight back. Dante stood. Walked to the window. We can fire Preston. Issue statements. Run damage control. Or we can actually change something. What are you proposing? Senator Mitchell asked. Dante turned back to the table. Complete operational overhaul. Starting with the Aurelius Crown. Then rolling out to every property we own. Keisha pulled out a notepad. What does that look like? mandatory anti-bias training for all staff, anonymous reporting system for complaints, third-party audits every 6 months, promotion review boards with diverse representation, and zero-tolerance enforcement. Malcolm Cross whistled. That's going to cost millions. Good. Shareholders aren't going to like it. They'll like a DOJ investigation less. Dr. Park tapped her pen against the table. You're talking about restructuring the entire company. I'm talking about doing what we should have done from the beginning. She studied him. And Preston, suspended pending investigation. If the audit reveals a pattern, he's terminated. If it doesn't, he's reassigned with mandatory training and supervision. That's too lenient. That's fair. The public won't accept fair. They want punishment. Then the public will have to be disappointed. Dante sat back down. I'm not running this company based on Twitter outrage. I'm running it based on principles. Jerome cleared his throat. We should also address the Chicago PD situation. What about it? They've opened an internal investigation. The officers involved have been assigned desk duty pending review. But their union is pushing back, claiming they acted in good faith based on hotel management's representation. Which is technically true, Marcus added. Preston told them it was a trespass. They had no reason to disbelieve him. Dante's jaw tightened. They had every reason to verify. Legally, they're protected. Good faith reliance on civilian reports is established precedent. Then the precedent is wrong. Maybe, but that's not a fight we can win in court. Senator Mitchell leaned into his camera. Dante, I know you're angry, but if you go after CPD, you're declaring war on one of the strongest police unions in the country. They'll fight you. Hard. And they'll make this about law and order instead of civil rights. So we do nothing. We pick our battles. We reform the company. We create a model other organizations can follow. We change the industry. That's bigger than any lawsuit. Dante stared at the screen. At the senator who'd built a career on compromise and incremental progress and strategic patience. What if I don't want to pick battles? Dante asked quietly. What if I want to fight all of them? The room fell silent. Shanice spoke first. Then you need to be prepared for what that costs. I know what it costs. Do you? She turned her laptop around again. Since last night, we've received 217 media requests, 43 speaking invitations, 18 board positions at civil rights organizations, 7 book deals, and 1 request to testify before Congress. She paused. You're not just a CEO anymore. You're a symbol. And symbols don't get privacy. They don't get nuance. They don't get to make mistakes. I didn't ask to be a symbol. You became one the moment those handcuffs clicked. Dante looked around the table, at faces watching him, waiting, wondering what he'd choose. Power or principles, reputation or revolution, safety or truth. He stood. Meeting adjourned. Keisha, start the audit. Malcolm, draft the operational changes. Jerome, prepare for whatever legal challenges come. Shanice, schedule the press conference. Dr. Park raised her hand. We haven't voted on any of this. I'm not asking for a vote. I'm telling you what's happening. Dante walked to the door. This is my company, and we're doing this my way. He left. The board members sat in stunned silence. Finally, Senator Mitchell spoke through the screen. Well, that was interesting. Dr. Park closed her folder. He's going to destroy everything we built. Or save it, Shanice said. Depends on how you measure success. Outside, in the hallway, Dante pulled out his phone. 17 missed calls, 49 texts, 123 emails. He ignored all of them, opened his contacts, scrolled to a number he hadn't called in 2 years. His college roommate, Terrence Davis, now a professor of sociology at Northwestern, expert on institutional racism. The phone rang 3 times. Dante? Man, I saw the news. Are you okay? No, but I need your help. Anything. I need you to design a training program. Something real. Not corporate diversity theater. Something that actually changes minds. A pause. You serious? Dead serious. When do you need it? Yesterday. Terrence laughed. I'll make some calls. When can we meet? Tomorrow. My office. Bring everyone you trust. Done. Dante hung up, looked out the window at the Chicago skyline, at the city that had arrested him, at the empire he'd built that had failed to protect the people it should have. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost declined, then didn't. Dante Rowe. Mr. Rowe, this is Captain Angela Martinez with Chicago PD Internal Affairs. I'd like to discuss the incident from last night. I have nothing to say to you. I understand you're upset, but we're conducting a thorough investigation. Your officers arrested me without verification. Your procedures allowed it. Your system enabled it. And now you want to investigate. Dante's voice stayed level. Cold. Here's what I'll say to you, Captain. Fix it. Not just the officers. Not just the policies. The entire culture that made this possible. Because next time, it might not be someone with lawyers and money and media attention. It might be someone who can't fight back. And that person deserves better than your investigation. He hung up. And somewhere in a police station on the south side, Captain Martinez stared at her phone, knowing he was right and hating that she couldn't fix it. Do you think companies can truly change? Or is this just PR? Drop your honest thoughts. Keisha Thornton had been awake for 36 hours. Her desk was covered in personnel files, performance reviews, incident reports, exit interview transcripts. Every document told the same story in slightly different words. The Aurelius Crown had a problem, and it went deeper than Preston Hale. She pulled up a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Red for terminated employees. Yellow for those who'd left voluntarily. Green for current staff. Blue for promoted. The pattern was obvious once you looked. White employees. Average tenure 4 years. Promotion rate 32%. Black employees. Average tenure 18 months. Promotion rate 9%. Latino employees. Average tenure 2 years. Promotion rate 12%. She cross-referenced termination reasons. White employees were let go for performance issues. Documentation. Multiple warnings. Progressive discipline. Employees of color were let go for cultural fit. Communication style. Team dynamics. Vague language that meant nothing and everything. She picked up her phone. Called Raymond Wells. Please tell me you found something that contradicts this, she said. I found something that confirms it. Raymond's voice was grim. I pulled complaint logs. Guest feedback. Online reviews. The Aurelius Crown has a pattern of negative reviews from guests of color. Comments about feeling unwelcome, being watched, having their reservations questioned. How long has this been going on? At least 5 years. Maybe longer. Keisha rubbed her eyes. Preston's been GM for 7 years. Yeah. So either he created this culture or he inherited it and did nothing to change it. Does it matter which? For the lawsuit? No. For my conscience? Yes. She pulled up another file. I'm looking at his hiring record. 73% of his management hires are white, in a city that's 30% black. Is that illegal? Not unless we can prove intent. But it's a hell of a red flag. Raymond was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? I want to fire everyone and start over. Keisha, I know. I can't. But I want to. She stood, walked to her window. We're going to recommend termination for Preston and mandatory retraining for every supervisor who reported to him. If they don't complete it or fail the assessment, they're reassigned. If they refuse, they're terminated. That's aggressive. Good. I'm tired of being diplomatic about discrimination. She hung up, pulled up her email, started drafting the report Dante would present at tomorrow's press conference. 3 floors below, Malcolm Cross was meeting with department heads. Housekeeping, maintenance, food and beverage, front desk, security, all of them wondering if they still had jobs. Let me be clear, Malcolm said. This is not a witch hunt. This is an audit. If you've been doing your job properly, you have nothing to worry about. The head of housekeeping, a woman named Rita who'd worked at the hotel for 14 years, raised her hand. What if we saw things but didn't report them? What kind of things? Managers treating staff differently based on, Based on what? Rita looked uncomfortable. Based on who they were. Say it plainly. Based on skin color. She said it quietly, like the words might explode. Malcolm nodded. If you saw it and didn't report it, That's a problem. But if you report it now, during the audit, we'll take that into account. Will we be protected? Yes. Anonymous reporting. No retaliation. Anyone who retaliates gets terminated immediately. A security supervisor spoke up. What about Preston? What about him? Is he coming back? Malcolm looked him in the eye. Would you want him to? The supervisor looked down. Said nothing. That was answer enough. At the Chicago Tribune offices, investigative reporter Nina Alvarez was building a story. She'd been covering labor issues for 12 years. She knew how to read between the lines. The Aurelius Crown arrest wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of something structural. She pulled public records, business licenses, health inspections, EEOC complaints. Nothing directly linked to the Aurelius Crown, but patterns emerged. Rowe Capital owned 17 properties. She cross-referenced employee lawsuits. Found 3. All settled out of court. All sealed. All involving allegations of discrimination. She called her editor. I need 2 weeks and a research assistant. For what? To find out if Dante Rowe is a victim or a hypocrite. Explain. He got arrested at his own hotel because a manager racially profiled him. Terrible. Unacceptable. Great story. But his company has settled multiple discrimination lawsuits. Which means either he didn't know this was happening in his own organization, or he knew and didn't care until it happened to him. Her editor was quiet. That's a hell of an allegation. That's why I need 2 weeks to prove it. You have 1. And if you don't find anything solid, we kill the story. Nina hung up and got to work. At Northwestern University, Terrence Davis sat in his office surrounded by books on systemic racism, implicit bias, and organizational psychology. His phone kept ringing. Colleagues, former students, people who'd heard he was working with Dante Rowe. Everyone wanted in. He'd assembled a team. 6 experts, psychologists, sociologists, legal scholars, corporate trainers, all of them committed to building something real. Not a 4-hour workshop where people watched videos and checked boxes. A comprehensive program that changed behavior. It has to hurt, Terrence said during the first meeting. If it doesn't challenge people, they won't change. Dr. Simone Washington, an organizational psychologist, nodded. We need to build in accountability measures, pre- and post-assessments, behavioral observations, promotion tracking, data that proves it's working. How long do we have? Someone asked. 3 weeks to develop the pilot. 6 months to implement across all properties. A legal scholar named James Nguyen looked skeptical. That's ambitious. It's necessary, Terrence said. Because if this doesn't work, it becomes another example of corporate diversity theater. And we lose credibility. And if it does work, then we change the industry. They got to work. Back at Rowe Capital headquarters, Shanice was drafting talking points for the press conference. She'd written 17 versions. Deleted 16. The problem was simple. Anything Dante said would be weaponized. If he focused on his experience, critics would say he was centering himself. If he focused on systemic issues, critics would say he was deflecting responsibility. If he apologized, critics would say it was performative. If he didn't apologize, critics would say he was arrogant. There was no winning, only degrees of losing. She walked to Dante's office. He was on the phone. She waited. He hung up. That was the mayor's office. They want to coordinate messaging. What did you tell them? I told them to handle their police department, and I'll handle my company. Shanice sat down. You're making enemies. I'm making change. Those aren't mutually exclusive. I know. He looked tired. More tired than she'd seen him in years. What do you need? I need to know what you're willing to sacrifice. Everything. That's not an answer. That's a slogan. She pulled out her notes. If you go through with this press conference tomorrow, you're going to be asked about the sealed settlements, about turnover rates, about why you didn't know this was happening in your own company. And whatever you say will define your legacy. My legacy is what I build, not what people say about it. That's naive. Maybe, but it's true. Shanice stared at him. You really believe that? I have to, because if I don't, then the last 20 years were a waste. She stood. I'll have the talking points ready by morning. Don't bother. Dante. I'm not reading from a script. I'm telling the truth, whatever that costs. She left him alone in his office, and Dante sat in the quiet, wondering if truth was enough to fix what was broken, wondering if anything was. His phone buzzed. Text from his mother. Come home tonight. Please. He looked at the message. At the skyline. At the empire he'd built that somehow still wasn't big enough to protect the people it should have. He typed back, I will. And for the first time in 24 hours, he kept a promise. Have you ever worked somewhere that talked about diversity but didn't actually change? Tell us your experience. The house hadn't changed. Same porch Dante had repaired 5 summers ago. Same flower boxes his mother filled with petunias every spring. Same squeaky third step he'd been meaning to fix for a decade. He parked in the driveway. Sat for a moment. The engine ticked as it cooled. Through the window, he could see the living room light on. His mother moving past the curtains. She'd waited up. He walked to the door. It opened before he could knock. Baby. She pulled him into a hug. Not the quick kind. The kind that lasted. The kind that said everything words couldn't. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. I'm okay, Mama. No, you're not. She touched his wrist where the handcuff marks had been. Faded now, but still visible if you knew to look. But you will be. She led him inside. The house smelled like it always did. Lemon cleaner and the lavender candles she bought from the church fundraiser every year. Photos covered the walls. Dante at graduation. His younger sister at her wedding. Grandchildren he didn't have yet, but she prayed for anyway. The kitchen table was set. 2 plates. Chicken. Greens. Cornbread. The same meal she'd made every Thursday for 40 years. You didn't have to cook, he said. I know. She sat down. Gestured for him to do the same. But you need to eat. You always forget to eat when you're stressed. He sat. Picked up his fork. Set it down. I can't stop seeing it. Seeing what? The people watching. The phones. Everyone just standing there. His mother nodded. Didn't interrupt. She'd learned a long time ago that Dante needed space to process before he could talk. I wasn't scared when they put the cuffs on, he continued. I was angry, but not at the officers. Not even at Preston. He looked up. I was angry at the people who filmed it and did nothing. What did you want them to do? Something. Anything. Ask a question. Demand verification. Not just stand there and record like I was entertainment. His mother reached across the table. Took his hand. People freeze when they see authority. They don't know what to do. They don't want to get involved. That's the problem. I know, baby. But you can't fix everyone. I can try. She smiled sadly. You sound like your father. Dante's jaw tightened. His father had died when he was 12. Heart attack, while working a double shift at the steel mill. No insurance. No pension. Just a funeral bill his mother spent 3 years paying off. He tried to fix things too, she said. Fought the union for better safety standards. Filed complaints about equipment. Made enemies. She squeezed his hand. And it killed him. Mama, I'm not saying don't fight. I'm saying pick fights you can win. What if I can't tell the difference? Then you pray. And you listen. And you trust that God didn't bring you this far to let you fail now. They ate in silence for a while. The food was good. Comfort food. The kind that reminded him of childhood and simpler problems. You know what hurt the most? He said finally. Tell me. The look on Preston's face. When he realized who I was. Dante set down his fork. He wasn't embarrassed. He was confused. Like he couldn't understand how someone like me could own something like that. People see what they expect to see. That's not an excuse. No, but it's a reality. His mother stood, poured sweet tea into 2 glasses. When I started nursing, the doctors treated me like I was invisible. Talked over me. Ignored my assessments. Assumed I didn't know anything. She sat back down. Took me 15 years to make charge nurse. And even then, some of them acted like I'd stolen something. How'd you deal with it? I kept showing up. Kept doing excellent work. Kept proving them wrong until they couldn't ignore me anymore. She sipped her tea. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But it was necessary. I'm tired of things being necessary instead of right. I know. But that's the world we live in. Dante pushed back from the table. Walked to the window. Outside, The street was quiet. Porch lights glowing. Cars in driveways. Normal life continuing while his was being dissected on cable news. You watching the coverage? He asked. Some of it. What are they saying? Half think you're a hero. Half think you're making it about race when it wasn't. It was always about race. I know. But some people will never see that. She joined him at the window. You can't convince everyone. You'll drive yourself crazy trying. So what do? You do what you came here to do. Change the company. Fix the systems. Help the people who can't help themselves. She touched his shoulder. And you let go of the rest. He looked at her. Really looked. At the gray hair she'd earned. The lines around her eyes from decades of night shifts and worry. The strength that had carried them through poverty and loss and everything else life had thrown at them. How'd you get so wise? He asked. 71 years of mistakes. She smiled. And a son who asks good questions. They stood at the window together. Mother and son. The woman who'd raised him to be excellent and the man who'd built an empire and discovered it still wasn't enough to protect him. I'm doing the press conference tomorrow, he said. I know. Legal says I shouldn't. PR says I shouldn't. The board says I shouldn't. What do you say? I say people need to hear the truth. She nodded. Then tell it. Even if it costs me everything. Especially then. She turned to face him. Baby, you've been safe your whole life. Safe from poverty. Safe from violence. Safe from the things I couldn't protect you from when you were young. But you're not safe from being black. And you'll never be safe from people who can't imagine you in spaces they think belong to them. She touched his face. So you might as well use that platform to help people who don't have one. Dante's eyes burned. He blinked. Looked away. I'm scared. Good. That means you care. What if I make it worse? Then you'll learn. And you'll do better next time. She smiled. That's all any of us can do. They moved back to the table. Finished eating. Talked about small things. His sister's kids. The church renovation fund. Whether it would snow this weekend. Normal things. Human things. The things that reminded him he was more than a headline. At 10:30, his mother walked him to the door. You staying in the city tonight? She asked. Yeah. Early morning tomorrow. You call me after the press conference. I will. I mean it, Dante. I don't care how busy you are. I promise. She hugged him again. Held on longer than necessary. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Not because you're rich. Not because you're successful. But because you're still the boy who wanted to fix things. He pulled back. Even when I can't. Especially then. He drove back to the city with the windows down despite the cold. Letting the wind clear his head. Preparing for tomorrow. For the cameras. For the questions. For whatever came next. At a red light, he pulled out his phone. Opened the video. The one everyone had seen. The one that had gone viral. Watched himself being arrested. Watched the crowd watch. Watched Preston smirk. And he felt it again. The anger. The hurt. The determination. Tomorrow, he'd tell his story. And maybe, if he was lucky, it would change something. The light turned green. He drove forward. What would you tell Dante if you could? Leave a comment below. The press conference room held 60 people and felt like 600. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled 3 rows of chairs. Photographers crouched at the front. Recording devices scattered across the podium like landmines. Dante stood backstage with Shanice. Through the gap in the curtain, he could see the crowd. Recognized some faces. Chicago Tribune. NBC. CNN. A few independent journalists. Social media influencers with phones already recording. You don't have to do this, Shanice said for the 3rd time. Yes, I do. Legals prepared a statement. You can read it and take no questions. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Dante adjusted his tie. Same charcoal suit he'd worn 2 days ago. Intentional. It's about making sure this means something. The moderator stepped to the podium. Tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Mr. Rowe will make a brief statement and then take questions. Dante walked out. The camera flashes started immediately. Blinding. Constant. He blinked through them. Found his spot behind the podium. Looked at the prepared notes Shanice had left there. Ignored them. On February 13th, I was arrested at the Aurelius Crown Hotel. A property I own. The details are public. You've seen the video. You know what happened." He paused. "But what you don't know is why." The room went quiet. For the past 6 weeks, Row Capital has been conducting unannounced audits of our properties, examining compliance, evaluating management, testing systems. The Aurelius Crown was the 7th property we visited, and what happened there revealed something we should have seen years ago. He pulled out a folder, set it on the podium. "This is a report compiled by our HR department. It shows that the Aurelius Crown has a 28% higher turnover rate for employees of color. It shows that promotions in management are 73% white despite the city being 30% black. It shows a pattern of complaints that were documented but never addressed." He looked up. "I got arrested because one manager made a racist assumption. But that manager existed in a system that enabled him. And I built that system." A reporter's hand shot up. Dante ignored it. "I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to take responsibility. Because this didn't start 2 days ago. It's been happening for years. And I either didn't know or didn't care enough to look. Both are unacceptable." Another hand. "So here's what's changing. Effective immediately, every Row Capital property will undergo a comprehensive audit. Every manager will complete mandatory anti-bias training. Every complaint will be reviewed by an independent third party. And we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination." He paused. "Let the words settle. Preston Hale has been terminated. Not because he arrested me, but because the investigation revealed a pattern of behavior that violated company values and created a hostile environment for staff and guests of color." The room erupted. Hands everywhere. Voices calling out. Dante pointed to a reporter in the front row. "Yes. Nina Alvarez, Chicago Tribune. Mr. Row Capital has settled at least 3 discrimination lawsuits in the past 5 years. All sealed. All involving allegations of racial bias. How do you reconcile your statement about taking responsibility with the fact that you've been settling these cases quietly for years?" The room went silent. Dante didn't flinch. "You're right. We settled those cases. And sealing them was a mistake. We prioritized protecting the company over addressing the underlying issues. That ends today. I'm instructing legal to unseal those settlements and make them public. Because transparency matters more than reputation." Nina's eyes widened. She scribbled notes. Another reporter. "Marcus Chun, NBC Chicago. Are you planning to sue the Chicago Police Department?" "No." "Why not?" "Because the officers were responding to information provided by hotel management. The failure was ours, not theirs. But they arrested you without verification. They made a mistake. We all did. And lawsuits don't change systems. Accountability does." Another hand. David Park, Wall Street Journal. "What's this going to cost?" "The audits. The training. The reforms. Approximately $27 million over the next 2 years. Gasps. Whispers. "And I don't care if it costs $50 million. Because doing the right thing isn't supposed to be profitable. It's supposed to be right." A woman in the back. Amara Okafor, civil rights attorney. "Mr. Rowe, with respect, this sounds like corporate PR. How do we know this isn't just damage control?" Dante looked directly at her. "You don't. You'll have to watch what we do. And if we fail, you should hold us accountable. That's your job." She nodded slowly. Respect in her eyes. More questions. Rapid fire. About Preston. About the officers. About whether this was really about race or just bad management. Dante answered them all. Honestly. Directly. Without deflection. And somewhere in that room, the narrative began to shift. Not completely. Not universally. But enough. After 30 minutes, the moderator called time. Dante stepped away from the podium. The cameras followed him. He walked backstage where Shanice was waiting. "That was either brilliant or career suicide," she said. "Maybe both." His phone was already blowing up. Texts from board members. Emails from shareholders. Calls from journalists. He ignored them all. Opened his messages. Found the one from his mother. Watched it. "Proud of you. Now go do the work." He smiled. Outside, news crews were already filing reports. Social media was exploding. hashtags forming, opinions dividing. But something else was happening too. Other companies were watching. Other CEOs were taking notes. Other organizations were wondering if they had the same problems. And in boardrooms across the country, conversations were starting. Not because Dante had gotten arrested, but because he'd told the truth about what happened after. 3 weeks later, the Aurelius Crown reopened under new management. A black woman named Janelle Freeman, 15 years in hospitality, previously passed over for promotion 4 times at competing hotels. She walked through the lobby on her first day, saw the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the guests who looked like power and money. And she thought about Dante Rose standing in this exact spot, being judged, being dismissed, being arrested. She made herself a promise. It wouldn't happen again, not on her watch. 6 months later, Rowe Capital released its first diversity report. Numbers, data, progress and failures. All of it public. Other companies followed. Some willingly, some under pressure. But they followed. And the industry began to change. Slowly, imperfectly, but measurably. Dante never did another press conference. Didn't need to. The work spoke for itself. In quiet corners of Chicago, people told the story differently now. Not as the billionaire who got arrested, but as the man who used that moment to demand better. From himself, from his company, from everyone. And somewhere in Gary, Indiana, a 71-year-old woman watched the news coverage and smiled. Because her son had finally learned what she'd been trying to teach him his whole life. That real power isn't about what you can build. It's about what you choose to change. And change, real change, doesn't happen in boardrooms or press conferences or viral moments. It happens in the daily decisions, the quiet reforms, the unglamorous work of making systems better, one policy at a time, one person at a time, one truth at a time. Dante stood in his penthouse office. Same view, same city, different man. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost declined, then didn't. Dante Rowe. Mr. Rowe, this is Michael Harris. I'm the GM at the Regency downtown. I just saw your diversity report, and I was wondering, could we talk? Because I think we have the same problem you did. Dante smiled. Yeah, he said. We can talk. Because some audits don't check numbers. They check character. And the most important investigations aren't about finding blame. They're about finding solutions. The conversation was just beginning. This story was inspired by real events that happen every day. If it moved you, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that challenges, inspires, and demands we do better. Share your thoughts in the comments and help inspire others. Because change doesn't happen when we stay silent. It happens when we speak up, show up, and refuse to accept that this is just how things are. Thank you for watching. Now go make a difference.